The results of this month's Patreon raffle will be coming up very soon. Hello out there, this is Toy Customizer Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with another commission figure. This is once again for MSmithCook, who has commissioned before, but this time he wants the Super Genesis Wave version of Sally. Well, almost. He wanted the Super Genesis Wave Sally based specifically off of this picture, which I think is based off of a concept, I think. It's essentially exactly the same, except she still has her cheek tusk from the pre-Super Genesis Wave. So it's close enough that I'm going to count it as Super Genesis Wave, though I know there are some nitpickers out there who would really crawl down my throat if I didn't point this out. Now, traditionally, I would go into a long-winded recap of the character's backstory and how it's changed from the Super Genesis Wave continuity like I did with Bunny. But the fact is, I don't really need to do it, because her backstory hasn't really changed any, only her physical appearance. And I actually kind of like that, because Sally had a really solid backstory. I mean, she's a character we grew attached to for like 20 years, so, I'm actually happy that that stayed. So really, they just kind of took her weaponized, roboticized appearance and, made her not a robot anymore. Meaning that she's wearing a closed vest and pants, as well as gloves. And here's the thing, her wrist doodads actually project hard light bladed weapons, which is kind of cool. It makes her, it's based off of the bladed weapons that she used as weaponized robot Sally, but it's still really cool. Because this makes her a more effective presence on the battlefield. Because you always had the cyborg rabbit, the swordsman wielding coyote, the super speed hedgehog, but Sally, she had PDA. So now actually giving her a tangible, visible evidence that she's as much a competent fighter as everyone else, that actually really helps. Also, she wears a sports bra underneath the vest. She wears 2 layers of clothing now. They really wanted to sell the fact that there's not going to be any more naked female characters, because in the Sonicverse, only male nudity is tolerated, apparently. Alright, double standards on what appropriate dress is in the Sonicverse aside, let's get along with making the toy itself. This is the first Princess Sally figure that is entirely made from only a single base toy, and it's Amy Rose. No more sticking a tail's head on a silver torso anymore, because to make her look more like a video game character, Sally's proportions were changed just enough that basically Amy is all I need. Of course, Amy's torso is still a little short. I did use this once to make a classic style Sally, which ended up being for that wedding cake topper if you'll remember, but it's kind of too short to put on a modern character. It would look a little stumpy. So what I did was something that I hadn't done for years, ever since I made Becky the Hedgehog for a long time ago. Essentially, I cut the body in half and then sculpted in Sally's midriff, along with her vest and stuff. Then I made her tail. So this made the buck taller, and it also made it a little bit curvier. So wins all around. Given the proper paint job, it's pretty much Sally's body. And yeah, you're kind of seeing a spoiler to the attachment of everything else, so let's just get that out of the way. The arms and legs were very simple. The legs were just repainted, as were the arms. They look enough like Amy's arms and legs nowadays that that's really all that's needed. But now let's get into the really heavy mods, which of course means her head. At first, I thought all I need to do was sand away her spines and then add the nose bridge like I always do, but it turns out that Amy's head, although the overall shape is okay for post-Super Genesis Sally, the positioning of the ears had to be changed. I had to cut them off and put them back on wider apart, mostly to accommodate her traditional gigantic hair. Now, if I wanted to go 100% Super Genesis Wave, I would not have sculpted in the cheek tusks, but like I said, the commissioner really wanted to keep them. So with a proper paint job, we see that Sally doesn't really look all that different. Her hair just has a slightly different shape, particularly in the back. And, when you put the cheek tusk back on, you really appreciate how little her character design has actually changed. which is a good thing, because like Sally had a great design. It didn't need that much changing. And here's the moment you've all been waiting for: post Super Genesis Wave Sally all built up. And she looks pretty darn good. I am particularly proud of her. Really, like, if I were to rank this in all the Sallys that I ever made, she'd probably breach the top 3. She's really, really just that good. And I also get to appreciate how Sally's shoulders work. Well, I should say how Amy's shoulders work. I mean, they would look a little bit strange if the figure was much bigger, but the shape of her shoulders and how her arms work actually give her some more articulation than a figure at this scale can usually get. Like this thing where her arm comes over her chest like that, you would normally need a butterfly joint to do that, which is really something you can only fit in on a larger figure, unless you're going to like go Micronauts expensive. So I really do like the figure, not just for the way it looks, but also for the way it works. Thank you all for watching this video. We'll be getting to more customs very soon, and I have other content to upload, so look forward to that. This is Wake Angel 2001, signing off.